I'd like to call tonight's Board of Commissioners meeting to order. If we could all please stand for a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, for the roll call this evening, Vice President Ward is absent. Everyone else is in attendance. There are no agenda modifications this evening. There are no announcements and presentations. Moving on to item 6, hearings and approvals. 6.1, ordinance 2025-03, approving a general obligation note related to the purchase of improved radio communications. Mr. Beidle.
Thank you, gentlemen. You have before you this evening the necessary general obligation note for the purchase of the township's emergency services radio. This is part of, as we've explained at multiple meetings now, this is part of the countywide upgrade for fire and EMS radios. It would require the township to engage in a promissory note with the county. With that promissory note for $639,251.71. It's necessary that the township adhere to the state law on that type of obligation. So this ordinance would, satisfy that requirement.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any commissioner comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Seeing and hearing none, I will call, I'm sorry, I will not. This will be a roll call. So Mrs. Flexer, if you could please call the roll.
Aye.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Aye.
Commissioner Beitler,
Aye.
Commissioner Higgins.
Aye. Okay, the ayes have it. Item 6.2, Resolution 2025-23, approving the Herbert Schenkel Minor Subdivision located at 7624 and 7627 Mountain Road. Nate, this is you, and I guarantee you're wearing shorts underneath that jacket and shirt and tie, but we're not going to say anything. Well, I just did, but sorry.
Not true, but okay. Yeah, so the Schenkel subdivision, as everybody's aware, we discussed this at the last Board of Commissioners workshop. It's 2 existing lots that are owned by the Schenkel family. One has significant acreage on the mountain and is the primary residence of Mr. Schenkel. The other is on the south side. It also abuts Shannock Road. Under the proposal, it will be 5 individual parcels, 1 with the existing residence, 1 with a non-buildable 75-acre preserved lot, 1 with another 17-acre preserved lot, and 2 homestead lots that'll be able to host 2 single-family homes. Each new lot will be assigned a separate address. And for clarification on the resolution, it does state that Lot 4 was listed as 4000 Mountain Road. It should actually be 4000 Shannock Road. I should also note that there's going to be a future easement for public access trails, which is contemplated in the resolution. We'll be working with the applicant on that one to ensure that there's trail connectivity through the mountain. And then last but not least, we do have the fact that there are several waivers, 9 of which have been listed and we went over in detail at the workshop. They do allow the plan to proceed as proposed, one of which allows Mountain Road to maintain its current rural character. And as the resolution states, we thank the Schenkels for helping preserve South Mountain and the township and its aggressive land preservation efforts. Happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any commissioner comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Anything from the applicant?
No.
Okay. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Mr. Jones, thank you.
Thank you.
6.3, consideration to acknowledge a waiver for a SOAR facilities planning module for the parent tract of the Herbert Schenkel Minor Subdivision. Vince.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So this is the same subdivision that Mr. Jones just spoke of, and this is a residual tract waiver. where a non-building lot in the conservation easement, DEP allows a waiver for large parcels where there is no proposed construction. So that is what is before you tonight.
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any commissioner comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Seeing and hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6.4, Resolution 2025-24, approving the Hamilton Square preliminary final land development located at 5329, 5347, 5357, 5365, and 5373 Hamilton Boulevard. Mr. Jones.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, sir. So as you just noted, this is a land development that will include 5 separate addressed lots that will become one lot. The property is familiar to everybody, I'm sure. This was the site that was going to originally be the Arby's. We now have a proposal for a commercial, retail, service, dining center here in the West Coastville Commercial Zoning District. The project was granted conditional use by the board back on January 17th of this year. And prior to that, it had approval by the Zoning Hearing Board on May 28th of 2004 for relief regarding the minimum 2-acre lot size, given the size of the lot. The project includes architecture and layout that's in line with the West Coastville Village District, which was reviewed by the Planning Commission and staff. It includes outdoor dining, streetscape enhancements, landscaping, varied roof lines, and then, of course, storefronts, which we worked very hard to ensure were in line with what the plan had for both West Coastville and our Hamilton Boulevard corridor plan. There were 3 waivers that were reviewed and recommended by the Planning Commission for the design with this. This was respect to stormwater, traffic, and another couple of elements which have been reviewed by the township engineer. And I do defer to the township engineer if there are any questions on those technical items. But I would note that a fair amount of time has been spent on this particular project, ensuring that it meets our standards for Hamilton Boulevard.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any commissioner comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Seeing and hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 6.5, consideration of a sewage facilities planning module for the Hamilton Square Land Development Project. Mr. Tranguch.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. President. So this is the sewage facilities planning module for the land development that Mr. Jones just went over. So they're proposing to discharge 2,000 gallons per day in accordance with the current uses, and they also utilize some existing EDUs that were on the existing properties.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any commissioner comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Seeing and hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Item 6.6, Resolution 2025-25, approving the Brookside Meadows Apartment preliminary final land development located at 3500 Brookside Road. Solicitor Berman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think everyone will recall this development known as Gristmill Development Company right up the street. It's a 7.6 acre site located at 3500 Brookside. And the plan is to construct 2 3-story apartment buildings for a total of 44 apartments. Primary access to this development will be located on Brookside, not the private driveway. On June 25th of 2019, the zoning hearing board granted required dimensional relief and parking variance. On April 7, the commissioners held a conditional use hearing and granted conditional use. And on February 1 of 2024, because of severe reservations with the land development as it had been planned, the board disapproved the application. The applicant appealed that to the Court of Common Pleas of Lehigh County. And on January 10 of 2025, Judge Melissa Pavlik, issued an order overturning the decision and remanding it back to the board for further consideration. There wasn't any kind of structure as to what that meant. So Kate Thurso and our office have been negotiating, an attempt to negotiate. But fortunately, with respect to some of the bigger items, we're just not going to be able to agree, i.e. please put it in the traffic. So we find ourselves now back because while the judge didn't give us any time frame, Kate and our office sort of worked out tonight as the day that we would render a decision, which is why we're here. I also might point out that this resolution, like many that come through the planning department, is peppered with conditions, all designed to protect the public and the residents and safety on Brookside Road. Couple I'll just point out again, these are standard, the landscaping in perpetuity, lighting in perpetuity, they pay for all that. And the thing I want to point out, because I think there's been a lot of confusion, is that the applicant will be required to install a pedestrian crosswalk on Brookside at the intersection. And that in and of itself was quite a bit of negotiation, but that's what we're looking at. And then there's about 4 or 5 conditions that if that intersection is ever improved, they have to cooperate and participate and move their entrance to there. So if the private road's improved, if the intersection is improved, they switch their drive. The traffic impact fee for this project was $80,264, and the recreational fee was $163,400. There are 10 waivers. Most of them are the standard waivers. And really, that's about it, unless anybody has any questions.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioner, comments and questions?
I just got a couple comments.
Commissioner Beitler.
I do have concerns with the light not being there and the private road. The emergency exit that's going to be used is onto a private road, which the private road, I don't even know the status of that. But from what I do know, the status is not, it's not a, you don't have an HOP to get on Brookside Road. And my main concern is public safety. Without a signalized light there where people can cross on a red light, I got major concerns. And I know everything you're about to tell me and everything I read, I'm going against the grain. But I was put here by the public, and I wouldn't feel good with myself if I wouldn't express my concerns for public safety. I lived in this township 50 plus years, and I witnessed so many accidents there that I don't want to witness somebody getting hammered by a car there. And I sat here and said, well, I'm okay with not having a light there, because I'm not okay with it. I am not okay with it.
May I respond?
And one more thing, I know we did we requested to get some information from PennDOT stating that they do not need a light there. And I'm going to let Bruce answer this because I don't believe we got a response.
Yeah, at this point, we realize the board's concerns of the corridor and Brookside Road, and Mr. Tranguch did provide correspondence to PennDOT on June 5th, asking the permit director there, Mr. Boyer, what the thoughts were and the necessity of a signalized intersection. And we asked for a prompt response within 14 days so that we could have this information, for this meeting. And we've received absolutely no acknowledgement or response to our letter. So we were hoping to have that, but it seems as though PennDOT is non-responsive on issues for traffic or traffic concerns of the board for this area. And that's where the request ended up at this point.
So actually, you do have a response from PennDOT because PennDOT approved the traffic impact study. And the traffic impact study specifically said that there was no warrants for a signal. And the PennDOT regulations are very specific that if there's no warrants for a signal, you can't install a signal. Let me, with all respect, the PennDOT's approval of the TIS is evidence and confirmation that there is no warrants for a traffic signal to be installed there. So there is no ability to install there. And while I understand you're saying that you were voted to do and be concerned with public safety, you also were voted in to make sure you were going to enforce the ordinances that are in place at the township. There is no legal basis to deny this plan on not having a traffic signal when it's on a state road and PennDOT is saying that there is no warrants for a traffic signal to be installed there. We have been acting in good faith, and Judge Pavlik made a determination that the township was not acting in good faith, which is why it sent it back. A number of the conditions that are in this resolution are not ones that the developer is required to do. The developer agreed to increase the traffic impact fee. It was not required to do. The developer has agreed to move the location of their access, which it would not be required to do. The developer has agreed to, if and when that intersection were to be improved and road right of way or other property has to be taken from the developer, not to have to there be any compensation for any of that. So the developer has clearly been working in good faith to try to offer things to the township that they're not otherwise required to give. This is a state road. The law is clear about when a traffic signal can be installed and the duties of a municipality in reviewing a plan when it is on a state road. So while I understand what you're saying about the public safety, the township is not the owner of that road. It's PennDOT. And PennDOT has made a determination that a traffic signal is not warranted there. So then we went and got our own HOP for a driveway further up. So we've been working with PennDOT. PennDOT's aware of that proposed driveway. We also had to work with PennDOT for the crosswalk that was being requested for us to make sure that there was going to be proper lighting and whatnot to get the pedestrians there. That is also incorporated into the plan. So there is no ability to install a traffic signal there because there are no warrants based on the traffic associated with this project.
And again, I'm not arguing anything you said prior to that. It's just, that's the way I feel about it. And as far as just because it went to court once and a judge ruled this, you've been around long enough and the township been around long enough to know that some stuff goes to the court the second time and they get a totally different answer.
Well, it likely will go back to the same judge who already made a determination that the township did not act in good faith. And so then when it goes back to that judge, now the judge will ask what has happened in the interim. And the judge will be advised what happened in the interim was the developer acting in good faith and trying to negotiate and propose additional conditions on the project that it's not otherwise required to give. If it goes back to court, many of the conditions that are in this resolution will not become part of the approval process, including the additional monies that were agreed to be given, including having to pay compensation to the developer should that any of that property need to be acquired for road dedication, should that intersection be improved for the signal.
Well, I am aware of that, and I'm not thinking dollars and cents. I'm thinking in my mind, public safety.
Right, but a lot of these conditions of public safety that we've imposed on ourselves go away.
Again, I don't want to get in an argument with you. I just told you the way I feel, and I'm opposed to this. And
Well, I just want to make sure the record, when it goes up to the court, is aware that the denial, if there is going to be a denial, it's not based on any statute, Saldo section, ordinance provision.
right, and then the confusion for me is we requested this information. We didn't get it.
And the fact that you waited till the beginning of June to ask for information when the judge's decision was in January is not the fault of the developers, number one. And number two, I'm not surprised that PennDOT didn't give you a response because PennDOT has approved the traffic impact study, which specifically states that that traffic signal is not warranted.
If anyone else has any questions.
Bruce, I was working under the impression the 209 study addressed it. Yes or no?
The 209 study mentions a light at that intersection.
if there's a warrant for it.
I haven't read it.
Yeah,
Make it
there has to be a warrant for it. There has to be a warrant for a traffic signal to be installed. Just because the Act 209 study contemplates that sometime in the future, there may be a traffic signal there, that just forms the basis of collecting the monies associated with it, which this developer is paying for it. It does not require or result in this developer having to install a traffic signal.
The information PennDOT gave you regarding warrants, was that in writing? Was that
So
oral?
what happens is we have to submit a traffic impact study to PennDOT. And the PennDOT traffic impact study includes an analysis, and Brian, interject if I'm saying anything incorrect, because I'm not an engineer. We have to give traffic numbers. We have to analyze different intersections. The intersections that are analyzed are part of in conjunction with the township to determine what signals are, what intersection is going to be analyzed. And then that report is submitted to PennDOT with recommendations of what should and shouldn't be done as it relates to the project. That traffic impact study, which said that there was no warrants for a traffic signal to be installed at that intersection, was accepted and approved by PennDOT, allowing us to move into the HOP phase.
Any other, oh, go ahead.
No,
Brian.
I was going to say, Kate's correct in that the traffic impact study was approved by PennDOT for this project. I'm scrolling through the 209 study to see exactly what it says about the intersection. My recollection was that the study suggested that signal was needed, but what Kate is suggesting is correct, that their study in the eyes of PennDOT didn't say that this project pushed it over the threshold to meet the warrants needed to justify the signal. Is that
Yeah.
a different way of saying what you're saying?
I would, yes.
So
And I'm correct though, Brian. If it's not warranted, PennDOT doesn't approve the signal.
well, that's correct. PennDOT will not approve a signal being installed unless it meets warrants.
Right.
And the distinction I'm making, Kate, is that for development projects, it's whether or not that development triggers it.
Right.
And I know from conversations that took place at this point close to 2 years ago, like a recollection was this 209 study said it met them then. And I guess it's possible that that's why PennDOT was like, yeah, we don't care.
Well, I don't think the 209 study said it met at them. I think the 209 study all throughout the township made certain recommendations and formed and said that in the future, certain things are going to be improved. And they have to do that in order to calculate what would be the fee that they would charge for different areas.
That's
of the
true.
township.
That is,
So it, just because it's saying that in the future, there's going to be a signal there, does not mean it met the warrants. It was saying, this is what we think. In the future, there might be a signal here, just like there might be a signal at a modification of East Texas Road, right? And its intersection with 309. So the 209 study did a complete analysis. They say these improvements are probably going to need to be made within the next 10, 15 years. And then they say, what are the costs of those improvements? And then by you doing that, then they create the cost so that if you're in the east side, you have to pay this per traffic.
right, that's correct.
And then this. So just because it says in the traffic study that a signal is going to be there, doesn't mean that it has to be installed by the developer. And quite frankly, when the township did their expansion of the community center, they should have been looking at that traffic signal because they were increasing the traffic to that intersection as well. But it probably never came up in that discussion.
I got to the part in the 209 study where this is, and I don't know that we need to get into the weeds on this. I just couldn't help but want to refresh my memory. Page 35 says in the TSA East, the following intersections were identified as not meeting the required operational standard of level of service E for unsignalized movements and level of service E for overall for signalized intersections. And when you get to Brookside and Indian Creek Road, which is the intersection we're talking about, it says signalize the intersection with a two-phase signal. So it's a distinction that I thought was important because of the suggestion that the intersection didn't meet warrants. This study doesn't specifically say warrants were met. it recommended that it should be signaled. I just want to clarify, I'm not a traffic engineer. There's probably much more fine tuning that can happen with these discussions. But yes, PennDOT did approve the traffic study prepared for this site. The HOP, I don't think the HOP
It's
has
not
been
complete.
issued.
No, it is, has not been because
So-
we've been on appeal.
Right, understood. But the bottom line is, at this point in time, the HOP for the project has not been issued.
Correct.
So there's that.
But any plan approval would have to be conditioned on outside
Well,
agencies.
Of course, of course. I just want to clarify for the board that we don't have an answer in addition to them not getting back to Vince from his June 4th letter saying, hey, what's the story? The HOP has not been issued yet.
Right, but
It's
but the review letters that we've gotten from PennDOT, which the township is copied on, speak for themselves and do not have anything in there about there being a necessity to install a traffic signal.
Well, I haven't looked at the reviews for a while. I'm not going to dispute what you just said. I'm just saying that right now the HOP.
And I would just note, and to clarify, I'm sure the applicant isn't aware, the township actually did reach out to PennDOT in writing years ago, prior to this development, request that the permit department and Mr. Boyer actually review the non-permitted driveway that is the private entrance that sees 75 to 100 truck trips a day out of it, that is onto the state roadway that could affect this area. With this development, the truck trips plus the additional 156 units on Indian Creek Road that's in Upper Milford. And we got no response from Mr. Boyer in writing. So the township did actually proactively go out and look at this. So the fact that PennDOT has not responded to our first written request, now our additional written request, leads staff to have those questions and at least advise the board that we're not getting responses from PennDOT about their roadways. So
And I know they
Just wanna make that-
they didn't respond about cleaning out their own culvert.
that's correct, as well as the culvert that was identified. So we as a staff have been working to kind of address these safety concerns where, it might be, important for the board to continue to direct us to at least see what their threshold is, as there's been no response.
Are there any other commissioner comments or questions?
Okay, just for clarification. When the traffic impact study was done for your development, it did not take into account the trucks from Home Depot, is that correct?
I don't have it in front of me, but I'm going to say no, because if they weren't being used at that time, they were not using that private drive. That came out afterwards, because when we first approached and did the project, it was still Tyler Pipe and it was not being used for those Home Depot trucks. So I would say more than likely no. But I can't tell you that 100%. But I know back then, because that's when we were trying to get in touch with Tyler Pipe as it related to the private drive, and they were still the owners then. So yes,
Okay.
that's a good, I would guess, yes.
All right, I'll make my comments. They'll be short. So, when this was originally denied, I was not in attendance, but I did submit a letter, and my feelings were that I'm not thrilled with this project for several reasons. Safety is one of them. Flooding is another, because I've yet to meet a developer who's told me they're going to take care of flooding, and it actually happens. And my beef is not with the developer. My beef is with PennDOT, and I'm going to be very blunt. Mr. Boyer is shirking his duties as the person in charge of this district for PennDOT. He refuses to respond. He puts in requirements for developments willy-nilly based on what he wants. One development gets requirements, another one doesn't. They could be on the same road, but depending on which one it is, they decide what they want to do. We've been fighting with them over the Tyler Pipeline for our entrance forever. They ignore it. It is a state road. It's an unsafe road. It's been unsafe for a long time. It's not the developer's fault. It's PennDOT's fault. PennDOT is at fault here. My only hope is if something bad happens here, somebody sues PennDOT to the point where they get every penny they can get, because the state right now, the state of Pennsylvania, is deficient in their duties to protect the citizens of their Commonwealth. That is my problem. Now, while I do oppose this, I'm not going to throw money away over a situation that we will probably lose again. We took our shot. We denied it. The court told us we were wrong. I'm not going to keep that going on. That's not good for the taxpayers. It's not good for the residents here on whole. I fear for the residents that will live there, the people who are going to have these apartments, because it's not going to be the best place to live. But according to the law and according to the way the statutes are written, they have every right to build this property. I hope somebody gets the message to PennDOT that they really need to take their head out of the sand and actually do the job that they're supposed to do, because they are not doing it in District 5 right now. And if that means the person in charge needs to go, the person in charge needs to go. And if it means you got to call the governor or you got to call your state rep, the person in charge is not doing his job, period. With that, I will vote to approve this plan because I feel I have no other choice but to do so. Is there any public comment on this topic?
I got two more
Yes,
statements.
Commissioner Beitler.
Just what Maury brought up, Commissioner Robert. Would another updated study be warranted because of the truck traffic coming out of there now?
No,
This, a-
An updated a traffic study.
well, this applicant is.
We have to do one after the fact.
requirements
Yeah.
that
sorry.
Yeah, that would.
The state.
Commissioner, we have an after development study, meaning they
Mhm.
have to redo the TIS when it's built and occupied.
Pardon?
They have to redo the traffic impact study once the development is up and occupied.
And then my other comment is, it said, you know, challenging this will cost taxpayers money. But if there's a single that's warranted to be there, it'll cost the taxpayers to put it in versus people creating the traffic there. Not only your project, any projects, but
Yeah, well, and the one condition that they're speaking of about having to do the after study is if it goes up on appeal, that's something that's not otherwise required. It was agreed to as a condition by the developer. So that would be something else that would likely go away.
all right, well, thank you.
And I'll just add one more thing because Bruce alluded to it, but I want to make sure that it's very clear and on the record. There's a development that has been put in Upper Milford that's also on Indian Creek Road. It's
56 units.
156 units that, again, PennDOT gave no problem with. Just go ahead, build it. Not a problem.
Did they have to look at that intersection in their study? Did they look at that intersection in their study?
I don't know because it's not in my township.
Oh, okay.
But I know that what they told us was, why did you let them build it? And our response is, it's not in our township. My response is, you stop it. You do it. It's a state road, but they don't care. It's the bottom line. All right. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
Item 7, public comment on non-agenda topics. Is there any public comment on non-agenda topics? Seeing none, I would like to, we don't normally get guests, so normally people would come up to speak at this point, but I'm assuming Boy Scouts? Very good. Citizenship merit badge, or what are we looking for? Sorry? Communications, even better, even better. You got to see a lot of communication tonight. Many different forms. Thank you for coming out. I hope you enjoy yourself. We try to put on a good show. Speaking of which, item 8, communication. Mr. Vital.
Thank you. Ms. Flexer actually applied for a grant for the from the Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce for some improvements around the Kratzer Park for some trees. We received notice, unfortunately, that we didn't get the grant, so we thank them for the opportunity and Ms. Flexer for her work, but that's the only item we have this evening.
Thank you. Item 9, there are no appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. Item 10, approval of minutes from previous meeting, 10.1, June 5th, 2025.
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any commissioner comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Seeing and hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 11, 11.1, bill list for June 19th, 2025. Mr. Beidle.
Thank you. The general fund, $252,169.05. The solid waste fund, $250. The sewer fund, $12,889.50. The capital projects fund, $487,492.51. The open space fund, $3,766.50. The payroll, $179,168.31. The developer escrow fund, $77,215.47. For a total of all funds, $1,012,951.34.
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any commissioner comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Seeing and hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 12, departmental matters, engineering, Mr. McAdam.
Thank you, Mr. President. My engineer's monthly report is included in your packet. Other than that, I have nothing to report.
Okay, any questions for the engineer? Item 12.2, planning. I don't know who to ask for this one. Mr. Jones or Mr. Tranguch, feel free.
Mr. Jones can take this. Thank you.
Yes, sir, I got it. I just want to keep the board apprised of things that are moving through the process right now. Just so everyone's aware, at the June Planning Commission meeting, 1500 Trexlertown Road, which is the Western Lehigh project, that received a recommendation from the Planning Commission. The North Crocs Mixed Use Project at 617 North Crocs also received a recommendation from the Planning Commission. And then lastly, the Planning Commission provided a recommendation for the conditional use of the Red Maple Acres Mobile Home Park expansion. So all those will be headed towards the board in the near future. And then just an update for the July Planning Commission meeting, just to give you an idea, we received a number of submissions that are currently under review. We will determine whether or not they're going to be on the agenda, but just so you know what is in process right now, we have a proposed light manufacturing facility at Industrial Parkway, right at the corner there with Albertus Road. The Sprouts Grocer and a commercial development with 3 additional commercial buildings on Route 100 has been submitted by right next to St. Luke's by the Janda Land Company. We do have the Red Maple Acres land development for their expansion right after the conditional use, also under review. And then last but not least, we did receive an application for a daycare on Mill Creek Road, and it looks like those folks are withdrawing. So we do have a number of projects that will eventually definitely be before the Planning Commission and that are making their way to you in the coming weeks. Happy to take any other questions you might have.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Jones? 12.3, solicitor, Solicitor Broman.
Nothing this evening, Mr. President.
Okay, any questions for the solicitor? 12.4, Township Manager, Mr. Beidle.
I just have one item. I didn't jump in before the board took their vote for the last project there, but Commissioner Ward did provide me a written notification that he wanted just for the record, but I have it. If it's all right, if I give it to Ms. Flexer for her to enter in the minutes, I can always read it if the board and the public would like to hear it. But that's,
Why don't you read it?
All right.
That he took the time to submit it, so please read it.
yeah, it says, although I am unable to attend tonight's meeting, wanted to provide my thoughts on the 3500 Brookside project. My position has not changed. This development lacks a viable, safe convenience for the residents to navigate across Brookside Road to the community center campus. I disagree with PennDOT's determination that a traffic signal is not necessary. Safety of our residents is our duty, and I do not take that lightly. Only safe option to cross Brookside Road is with a traffic signal and proper crosswalk at the Indian Creek Road and Brookside Road intersection.
Okay. Any questions for the Township Manager? Okay, item 13, other business. Is there any old business to discuss this evening?
I just got one.
Oh, yep, Commissioner Beidle.
Is this the Boy Scouts?
Yes.
You know, the older you get, it's great to see you guys here. I would love to see this whole room packed with Boy Scouts. But thank you for taking the time and thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Okay. Is there any old business this evening? Is there any new business this evening? Seeing none, item 14, Board of Commissioner reports. The next board workshop is June 23rd, 2025 at 6 p.m. in this room. The next regularly scheduled business board meeting is July 17th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Please note that there is no meeting on July 3rd. So July 17th is the next regularly scheduled board meeting. There is no executive session after this meeting. And with that, we are adjourned. Over by 20 minutes.